undefeated player with a win. Dropped 2, but rallied last round to defeat Jonathan Sukanik. Todd Anderson, 8-1 on day 1. He has made quite a run with Teamer Twin as well.
And this matchup to me is all about who's able to leverage a mana advantage. Both of these decks are so much better at playing out in front because of cards like Remand, Cryptic Command, Snapcaster Mage, and so forth. I do think Todd's deck is a little bit more efficient, plays a little bit better in that kind of game. But it should be a close matchup.
Yeah, well, game 1, Todd has the Twin package, whereas Jeff has a Blood Moon package. You have to think advantage to Todd there, but the decks are very similar.
Yes.
To start out, both players just trading land drops. You see Todd actually opting not to go for a turn 1 Grim Lavamancer, hoping to hold up mana instead. So you go back to Hoogland. He has a copy of Blood Moon in his opener, some Remands, a pair of them along with a Tarmogoyf. Just a fetch land, and he'll pass back. Plenty of lands in Jeff's hand.
And it looks like Todd is the first player who's going to be missing a land drop here. And now he's in this uncomfortable position. Do I cast my Tarmogoyf into a potential counterspell? Do I leave up Remand? As long as Jeff keeps making his land drops, he totally controls the pacing of the game.
Yeah, I mean, the big danger of casting something like Tarmogoyf if you're Todd would be you'd cast Tarmogoyf and then Jeff would simply Blood Moon you. Right now, Todd with no chance to search for basics just yet. He did finally hit through land 3, though, on turn 4. Made Grim Lavamancer, still leaving up that Remand mana. We look at Jeff. It's going to crack one of his fetch lands for a basic island.
And you can see the giveaway that turn. Todd ripping land number 3 and then casting the Grim Lavamancer. Jeff knows that Grim Lavamancer wasn't drawn this turn, so Todd's sitting on some 2-mana piece of reaction. Not even going to fight back over this Remand, trying to devour something a little bit more expensive or something on Jeff's main phase.
Yeah, I got a 1-of there. And Jeff just pushing the mana advantage. He had 3 Remands in hand, so he was able to use one pretty aggressively there. You see here, Jeff continues to press advantage. He drew this turn an Electrolyze, so if Todd goes for Grim Lavamancer, then Jeff can once again just kind of push on and Electrolyze away the 1-1.
And it's possible that Jeff will cast the Electrolyze no matter what to just keep the momentum going, ensure that he finds his land drops and things to do.
All right, for Todd, he's now fetching for basics, gets a basic forest in play. He's pretty much Blood Moon proof now, so he can get a green and a island and a forest into play. Is able to dodge that one. You see the tap right here, though. He's going to go for Tarmogoyf. Right now, Tarmogoyf is just a 2/3 because of it is instant end land, but still big enough to survive an Electrolyze from Jeff. Either way, it's still going to be fodder for Remand. Jeff still long on Remands.
And this is not a bad spot here for Todd, because if Jeff is willing to remand this Tarmogoyf, it's probably an indicator that he doesn't have Lightning Bolt. I think Jeff would really love to just trade off a Lightning Bolt for a Tarmogoyf given this type of spot, so that's at least something.
All right, and we will go back here. So Todd's going to go ahead and remand as well. We'll see whether or not, probably remanding his own Tarmogoyf here, not Jeff's remand.
Exactly, and Todd's just trying to play this game of make my land drops, generate card advantage. At this point, no particular text box matters very much. Todd with a bunch of copies of Splinter Twin in hand, but no creature to pair it with. So at this point, it's just a raw card count, economy, mana efficiency sort of game that these two are playing.
And go over to Jeff. So the Counterspell War was fought here. And Jeff allows that one to happen, draws back for his turn.
And you can see both of these players know exactly what's going on in this game. They're not trying to pick a fight over anything right now.
And Jeff will take the opportunity to Blood Moon Todd here. Todd, though, did get one of each of his basics, so he'll get to operate with that. Jeff then making Tarmogoyf. But it does mean in upcoming Counterspell Wars, Jeff will have some advantage here, you'd think.
Though this is a great turn for Todd. Fending off the Tarmogoyf, getting a sorcery in the graveyard, deploying a Grim Lavamancer as well. He's sort of broken serve here.
Yeah, I was able to Flame Slash away the Goyf and then make 2 creatures. So now Todd is finally ahead on the board. As we go over to Jeff, it seems Jeff was able to resolve his payoff spell here, but it's just not doing that much. You know, the 3-drop Blood Moon not being too effective. Jeff will Electrolyze away the Grim Lavamancer. He's now just 1 Tarmogoyf of his own away from stabilizing.
Yeah, the Blood Moon sort of matters here. It cuts a little bit out of the wind out of the sails for things like Snapcaster Mage paired with a blue card, for example. But it's not really prohibiting Todd's development at this point as he has access to all 3 colors of mana.
And both players with a Goyf. Todd has another Flame Slash in hand, but now that creatures in the yard, the Goyfs are too big to be slashed. What Todd can do, however, is he can Snapcaster Mage that Flame Slash. It's the only sorcery in the graveyard, so it would have taken care of the Tarmogoyf had Jeff not been able to Spell Pierce it. Tarmogoyf will go ahead and swing. Jeff going to take the damage. Were he to block there, Todd could simply Flame Slash it post-combat. Go back over to Hoogland, drawing a second copy of Blood Moon. He does play 3 in the main, so a little bit of a dead draw. Mostly stabilized here for Hoogland, but not all the way.
And the problem is the burden is sort of on him to get something going, because the Splinter Twin deck is a bit of a time bomb. If Jeff is not flush with reactive cards, it's only a matter of time before Todd cobbles together the combo.
And Jeff just continuing to play for card advantage. Main phase, he's going to play Snapcaster Mage, giving the Electrolyze flashback, electrolyzing 1/1, getting rid of Todd's Snapcaster, and swinging in with Goyf. So Jeff content to try to play the race right here. Kind of as you mentioned, he's got to get something going on. And both players with their draws having some awkwardness to it. Jeff drawing multiple copies of Blood Moon, which you see with Todd, a full 3 copies of Splinter Twin in his hand. And he'll Flame Slash away the Snapcaster Mage. Go up to 4/5. He'll hit Jeff down to 9. Cards in Todd's hand: 3 Splinter Twins, a Remand, and a Spell Pierce. Jeff's going to play Serum Visions. His hand looks better equipped for the fight, though not by much. He has a Remand of his own, but a Vendilion Click, which just as a threat should be pretty good.
And a lot of it is just a mana advantage here as well. It's so much easier for Jeff to, advance his board while being able to fight back against Todd's actions.
And here we go, Vidalcan Shackles, the play from Jeff. That's got to be something that Todd needs to fight over, I would think. Jeff with too many, he has 4 islands in play, so it is big enough to take Tarmogoyf. And we'll see Todd's going to try to remand the Vidalcan Shackles. Jeff can remand back. He can also simply recast. And remember, this is where the Blood Moon's coming to play. Todd cannot actually Spell Pierce here because he does not have another blue mana with that Sulfur Falls.
Yep.
So Shackles gets to resolve.
And there's actually a lot of different paths there available to Jeff that turn. He could have also just remanded the Shackles again if he wanted to play the card advantage game. But I think he wants to pick this spot to get the Shackles into play, because once he untaps, it's very hard for Todd to win the game with Tarmogoyf or execute his combo. So a very powerful card for Jeff to sneak through here.
Yeah, one out that Todd does have is that if he can grow his Tarmogoyf even by 1 here, it's going to get out of range of Shackles. And it's actually somewhat hard for Jeff to find another island.
As his fetch lands are mountains, so he would have to naturally draw one of his few remaining islands.
It's interesting because Todd does have enchantments in his hand. He does have copies of Splinter Twin, but not a way to get one into the graveyard. Remember, the Shackles only cares about the power when Jeff takes it. If he takes the Tarmogoyf and the Tarmogoyf afterwards grows, Jeff still gets to control the Tarmogoyf. It doesn't break the Shackles.
Right. And now you can see where the Blood Moon, even though it wasn't ideal this game, is causing some issues for Todd.
He won that counter war for Jeff.
Won the counter war. Also, Todd is unable to Serum Visions this turn without giving up his ability to counter back. Now at this point, his counter spells are Remand and Spell Pierce, not super valuable.
And Todd casts Serum Visions, Jeff flashes Snapcaster into play, and that will be game 1 over to Jeff Hoogland.
So again, Todd was not locked that game out of Blood Moon, but because this matchup is a lot about how efficient are you when it comes time to battle over counter spells or similar cards, Todd's inability to fire back with the Spell Pierces and Remands in his hand was a difference in that game.
And once again, these games when we've watched the Temur Moon deck play, it seems to be all about the mana advantage in this matchup.
Exactly. I mean, it's a Remand, Cryptic Command, Spell Pierce matchup. Making your land drops is a really important part of winning that struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. Players here go to the sideboard. As they go to the sideboard, we'll talk a little bit about Starseed Games Game Night. If you haven't caught on to this. This started about half a year ago and it really has picked up. This is something that any of the local stores can host just by contacting Star City Games. Make one of your nights a Star City game night. In return, you will get excellent tokens and pins to give away as prizes to your players. One thing you see this month coming up is the rat token that you see here. Your little rat in a skull pin and these 1/1 adorable tokens over on the right.
Yeah, you see, we've been wearing the pins this weekend. This is the March kit. It's too late to get signed up for March, but if you want to get on board for the April kit, head over to starcitygames.com/game night or contact your Star City Games organized play representative.
All right. So looking at the sideboard, both players have like this main deck plan, whether it's Blood Moons or Splinter Twins, that they can go for, but isn't particular. They both will try to get away from during the sideboard games. What do they go to?
Well, Todd can normalize his deck quite a bit and get away from the combo if he wants to. He has a Spellskite, a Dispel, 2 copies of Negate and Engineered Explosives, a Vendilion Click, a Batterskull, and Izzet Staticaster, 2 copies of Sower of Temptation, 2 Ancient Grudges, a Vandal Blast, a Thrun, and a Counterflux. So I like bringing the extra counter spells, the Negates, the Dispel especially, and the Counterflux. Very good for fighting counterspell battles. The Vendilion Click and Batterskull also good for sort of normalizing the deck a little bit. And the 1 copy of Thrun is not the easiest card for Jeff to handle. Now, the problem with the Thrun is if Todd gets Blood Mooned, forget about it. There's only 1 forest in the deck. But if he's able to keep Blood Moon off the table, if both players get into that staring contest where the battle is about mana efficiency and trying to slot through those counter spells, Thrun is a really good way to break that up.
And now, what about something like Ancient Grudge? We did see a lot of mileage out of the card Vidalcan Shackles and Jeff.
I think the Ancient Grudge is reasonable here as well. Vidalcan Shackles is a very problematic card for Todd, whether or not he's going for the combo or just trying to play a normal control game.
It does seem like Todd certainly has more sideboard. If you look over at Jeff's side, he can go up to 4 Blood Moons, though I'm not even sure he'll stick with all 3 that he had in the first place. Outside that, he does have a copy of Negate. He has 2 copies of Flash Freeze, which is good but not great here.
I think the presence of Tarmogoyf in Todd's decks makes it pushes Flash Freeze over the finish line. I think if it was just about countering bolts and such, you wouldn't see it come in, but I think there's enough targets in Todd's deck where it's reasonable.
Outside of that, the other cards in Jeff's sideboard, Engineered Explosives, Spellskite, Vandablast, Magma Spray, Aether Spouts. Maybe he brings in some number of Spellskite, but that's about it.
The Spellskite is pretty solid if Todd's sticking with the combo and not very effective if he's just converting into a generic control deck. So
yeah, and I would suspect from Jeff that Todd is not keeping in the combo.
I agree. It seems like an uphill battle here, trying to get those to resolve in the face of all of Jeff's removal and counter spells.
All right, both players underway for game 2. Todd Anderson on the play. Last game, he was the first one to miss a land drop, and it cost him dearly. Will that be the same fate? He's kept a 2-lander. Starts with a turn 1 Steam Vents. He'll shock himself for that. Probably not, though. Serum Visions should set up some draws for Todd. He hits land number 3 and is going to be off and scrying. So good start for Anderson. Siege Taxing Probe, Snapcaster, Lightning Bolt among the cards in his hand. And Cryptic and Tarmogoyf on top may both just be keepers.
I mean, Todd can get a lot of velocity here. He can, next turn, Snapcaster Mage, Gataxian Probe, flash back the Gataxian Probe, get something into play, draw a bunch of cards, try to get closer and closer to making his land drops and having Cryptic Command ready to go with a board.
So you talk about plays like Gataxian Probe, Snapcaster, Gataxian Probe. It seems like Todd can be very aggressive with his life total here.
I think so. I mean, Jeff's deck can definitely pressure, and it's got quite a few bolts, but in this matchup, it's just an acceleration to land drops and being able to win counterspell battles. So I'm happy taking a bunch of damage to ensure that that happens early on in the game.
Jeff with the Serum Visions of his own. Jeff kind of viewing it the same way. He's taking 3 damage for his Serum Visions. You see some more tempo cards. Well, we can see all of Jeff's hand here. It is 3 islands, a breeding pool, a Vapor Snag, a Mana Leak, and a Vendilion Click.
And this is the type of hand where I think it's very powerful to initiate that Snapcaster Mage play. It's not a hand with a lot of pressure. It's actually not a hand that handles a 2-1 attacker very well for the time being.
You have to Mana Leak really being the only answer.
Right.
Todd will go ahead and go and take this opportunity to drop Tarmogoyf onto the board. Right now we have Sorcery and Land, so it is a 2-3 Tarmogoyf, but Instant should join pretty quickly here. Jeff's second land going to hold up Mana Leak, but Todd knows that Jeff does not have the removal right now for Tarmogoyf.
And I like, in that spot, casting the Tarmogoyf instead of the Snapcaster Mage. Get that threat into play while you can. The Snapcaster Mage gets better and better as the game progresses, so.
And we're back over to Todd. He will play Snapcaster Mage main phase here. He either gets to have the Gataxian Probe, or if Jeff wants to Mana Leak, then Todd gets to grow the Tarmogoyf. It seems like a win-win.
I can't imagine not Mana Leaking this. I don't know what Jeff's plan is to do with the mana otherwise. You don't want Todd putting another threat into play and drawing a card. It looks like he's going to let it go. I think that's a spot where I would have Mana Leaked.
Yeah, it looks like he's flashing back Serum Visions. also pretty good. Yeah, he's in a tough bind. Neither of them present great situations. This way the Tarmogoyf is smaller, but yeah, Todd now does have 2 threats. Jeff will attacks, Todd will go attacks, and Jeff's plan is to Vapor Snag away the Tarmogoyf.
That's another line of play, but I think that Jeff is falling so far behind in the card economy game at this point that, again, I would have preferred to see a counterspell on the Snapcaster Mage.
3rd land from Jeff, but no green source for his own Tarmogoyf right now. Swing from Snapcaster Mage will put Jeff to 15. Todd's draw, a good one though. Also, he drew Counterflux for the turn. 1 of out of the sideboard. Certainly the last word in counterspell battles.
And you can see Todd's just doing a very excellent job of navigating the mana efficiency part of the battle. He's picking spots where if he gets hit with a counterspell, it doesn't matter all that much. Trying to tap out every turn, although this turn he took a turn off because of the counterflux. He's making his land drop, so he's getting to a spot too where Mana Leak won't even matter. He'll be able to redeploy Tarmogoyf with 3 mana up. Just doing an excellent job of navigating this game.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and counterflux that Vendilion Click on him that Jeff attempts to end step. So that is Jeff's only threat that Todd got out of the way. Well, was it? Todd now does have green mana. He has a Tarmogoyf, he has a Mana Leak, and a Spellskite available. So he does have a threat of his own. It's going to be Tarmogoyf. Kind of the threat in these matchups, and Spellskite accompanies it. So Tarmogoyf plus protection could be problematic for Todd.
Yep.
It's currently at 4-5.
Well, Todd always has the option of just deploying Tarmogoyf, pumping the brakes a little bit, and then taking advantage of the fact that he's way up on cards right now. One of the cards he does know about in Jeff's hand is Mana Leak, which is only deteriorating in value. And he can just wait and hope to outdraw Jeff with a pretty nice advantage to start off everything.
Lands 5 and 6 are already in Todd's hand, so he certainly does have the ability to go late. And he's got a Serum Visions too to help set up for the fight. Draws another land off it. We'll see the Scries though. Dispel among them. That's pretty decent here. He knows that Jeff has some cards worth dispelling. Looks like Dispel and Vendilion Click, so Todd's gonna go ahead and keep both of those.
And Vendilion Click is a great draw for Todd right now. Whenever he wants to get that set up, probably with Dispel back him, because the ground's getting locked up here. You see Todd's just sort of hunkering down a little bit. He can then use Dispel and Vendilion Click to push through a flyer. If Jeff has a problematic card, he can get out of the hand. If Jeff tries to Cryptic Command back, he'll have Dispel ready to go. Mana Leak doesn't offer Jeff any defense here, so Todd's got a nice set of turns set up here.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf of his own on his turn. Go back over to Jeff playing a land. 3 cards remaining in his hand. Does have Mana Leak and Snapcaster Mage. And as we've seen him do a lot, it's going to be Snapcaster on Serum Visions. Actually, I'm sorry, he's going to go aggressive. It's going to be Snapcaster on Vapor Snag for the Tarmogoyf.
Well, the die has sort of been cast by the way that he initially set up this turn and this game as a whole. He's not winning the long game here, and so I think his plan here is just to try to shove through as much damage as he can and hope to burn Todd out, or find Vidalcan Shackles and get around the last points of damage that way.
Yeah, Todd down to 10 on that attack. He's going to redeploy the Tarmogoyf. It's Flash Freeze from Jeff, but Todd will fight over that with Dispel. Card economy coming up yet again. Todd has a blocker now and the mana up to play Vendilion Click on the next turn.
That also makes some sense why Jeff would have gone and Vapor Snap the Tarmogoyf last turn. If his card was Flash Freeze, that's really the best target in the matchup, so gives him an opportunity to maybe get the Tarmogoyf off the table for good and push through the last couple points of damage.
But Jeff stalled out now, just Mana Leak in hand. We'll go over to Todd. Now Todd draws the Vendilion Click. He has Vendilion Click, Lightning Bolt, Snapcaster Mage. He still has tons of action. Down on life points, but looking like that card economy is going to carry him through. Snapcaster Mage just such a beating in these matchups.
And Todd's Snapcasters thus far have been a lot more effective than Jeff's.
That's what the extra mana really does, it seems. Todd will go for a Vendilion Click. Jeff's going to remand.
And remember, Todd's still aware of the Mana Leak, so there's a very good chance Todd just lets this happen and then untaps and tries again next turn.
Jeff draws and passes, so they're both just going to trade some draws while Todd continues to try for this Vendilion Click. Back over here, Todd's off the turn. It's another land. It's a Misty Rainforest. He is up on cards, but he can be outdrawn here if he draws too many lands. And it looks like that may be happening here. Jeff's last draws have been pretty decent. Serum Visions and Electrolyze.
Yeah, Electrolyze is a great card to draw here in the face of the Vendilion Click, because it means Jeff doesn't try to have to initiate a risky battle with Cryptic Command, which could open him up to other counter spells. He can just electrolyze the Vendilion Click and move on with life.
And it does feel like just over the last couple of draws, Jeff has really pulled even in this game.
Yeah, I felt like he was behind here before, but Todd's drawn a couple lands, and Jeff's draw steps have been pretty cooperative.
Jeff's going to pass. Todd's going to go for the Vendilion Click again. Jeff's going to let it resolve and then electrolyze both the X1s. You see Jeff's hand, just for these last two draws, he has a Serum Visions, a Cryptic Command, and a Mana Leak.
And Todd, again, can't really fight back just yet. He knows about the Mana Leak, and his game plan is obviously to make that a dead card as much as he can.
And the 2-for-1, well, the 3-for-1 rather, scored by Jeff. And his draw off Electrolyze insane as well. It was Vendalken Shackles. So Todd gets to take one of these cards, but there's more than one thing he needs to take out of this hand.
Right, both Cryptic Command and Vendalken Shackles are going to be very hard to beat the way this game is shaping up.
Todd still has Snapcaster Mage for Counterflux. The problem is that the Snapcaster Mage is not uncounterable, so the Mana Leak can just, you can leak the Snapcaster and then the Counterflux doesn't work.
Todd's got enough mana, though, where I think he can Snapcaster. Yes, he has 8 mana, so he can Snapcaster, pay for a Mana Leak, and Counterflux. To me, Cryptic Command is the card that really stands out in this hand because the game's going to be played largely at instant speed. So even though Vendalken Shackles is much more dangerous, Todd's current tools afford him a lot more ways to play around that sort of thing. It's a risky for Jeff to commit the mana.
We're in Todd's main phase right now, right?
No, we're still at the end of Jeff's turn.
Okay.
Right.
So yeah, he'll take the Cryptic then.
So after the Click and the Snapcaster got electrolyzed. So even though Vendalken Shackles is really dangerous, if Jeff ever commits mana on his own turn, Todd's pretty well equipped to win that fight. And Cryptic Command just gives Jeff a ton of flexibility.
Right, it gives Todd the ability to leave up 8 mana, which is what he needs to win the counter war, and he just has to do that on Jeff's turn. But that's not too much of a problem. Most of his deck is instant speed anyway.
And Todd's in a holding pattern anyway. It's not like he's trying to do very much right now because he has nothing to do, and his Tarmogoyf is holding off all of Jeff's attackers.
He needs to get some better draws. If he does get some expensive cards, he doesn't have enough mana to really pull away, and that draw was excellent for him. He got another copy of Snapcaster Mage.
In 12 minutes for the last.
I still think Todd just needs to hold the ground for the time being. Not a lot to be gained by attacking.
Draw was Negate from Hoogland. A lot of business. He is tied up on mana. And part of me wonders whether or not Todd's going to really try to take advantage of that fact.
Well, there's not. I think that Todd's behind on the board and on life at this point, so it's very risky for Todd to try to push ahead. I think he's best served just trying to hold for as long as possible and hope that his draw steps improve the situation.
Serum Visions from Jeff draws a mountain and scries 2 to the bottom.
For example, if Todd finds an Ancient Grudge, then he can get rid of the Spellskite. He doesn't have to worry about the Shackles anymore, and things get pretty easy from there.
Serum Visions for Todd draws another land, scries. We do see a red card. I believe it might be the Ancient Grudge you're talking about.
I believe it was Flame Slash, which will also play here because the Flame Slash kills the Spellskite, then his Bolt can kill the Snapcaster Mage, and then the board's really stable.
Lands from Jeff. So now they both having plenty of lands, and we've gotten into this late game where it's now seems to be almost all about the card advantage. It will be Vendalken Shackles from Jeff. And this is where Todd has been waiting for this fight. He'll go with Snapcaster Mage. Remember, Jeff does have Negate, but that's not really going to do anything against Counterflux.
Yeah, the one Counterflux really coming into play here.
Now, Jeff's counter speed is Mana Leak, Negate. Neither of those are going to be particularly good at stopping this Snapcaster Counterflux play.
So the question now is, does Jeff cash in the Mana Leak? It looks like the answer is no. Todd did leave both on top with the Serum Visions last turn, and he has a Scalding Tarn in play. He would have to break to be able to pay for the Mana Leak. So it's not clear if the Mana Leak is going to do much more than that. Maybe it will somewhere down the line, but that was an opportunity to at least get Todd to shuffle his deck. And given that he left 2 cards on top, I think it's at least close to defensible. It looks like Jeff's holding on hope that he can do something else with this Mana Leak.
Yeah, Serum Visions again for Jeff. Stomping Ground. He's left with 2 cards in hand. Does have still that Mana Leak and Negate. But Jeff's still unable to deal damage, and these Snapcasters look to be doing a lot of work for Todd. So suddenly in hand, Todd is ahead again. Lightning Bolt, and yeah, it is Flame Slash, not Ancient Grudge. So Slash will probably take care of Spellskite. It's not really going to be able to do much else.
Yep. And Todd's actually entering a position where I think he can start attacking with his Tarmogoyf. He's got a Bolt to finish off Jeff's Tarmogoyf if Jeff were to offer up a block here. If Jeff blocks with the Snapcaster Mage, that's fine too. It's a borderline call, but given that there's another Snapcaster Mage in Todd's hand as insurance, he can probably get the Tarmogoyf off the table or force a chump block with the Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah. Declines. He seems like he wants to be a little more ahead, and Jeff off the top, it's Vidalcan Shackles.
And this is where the negate could potentially be very good.
Yeah, Todd does not have another counterflux, so this Shackles is going to work. And that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, this is looking like Ancient Grudge or bust for Todd.
Another Snapcaster, his draw. He's going to start by leading with a Snapcaster. Probably going for something like Serum Visions.
Yeah, Todd needs help. He needs to find Ancient Grudge pronto.
And that's going to be the one. Flashes back, so he gives Serum Visions flashback. He'll crack a fetch, go to 7, get a land to cast it. He doesn't have any more basic islands. This actually would hurt him a lot. So he's just going to go ahead and crack a fetch for the mountain, go to 7. Trying to make this as alive as possible. Serum Visions will be cast. Does Jeff let it resolve? Yes, he does. And he drew another Serum Visions, and his Scry 2 are both good cards, but they're not named Ancient Grudge.
But a Tarmogoyf is not too shabby in this situation, as it still allows Todd the opportunity to block a stolen Tarmogoyf.
Sure, he can't. Right, you can't shackle both the Goyfs.
Right. So it's not as good as Ancient Grudge, but a Tarmogoyf here is not shabby.
Todd will take the Serum Visions he drew, ship both cards to bottom. He'll draw that Tarmogoyf so he can deploy it this turn. That's a defense against Shackles, at least for the time being, but he's going to be having to chump away these Snapcasters. Then he'll pass the turn. On end step, Todd's going to take a Goyf. Rather, Jeff will take Todd's Goyf. Another blue card to draw for Hoogland.
Was that a Boomerang?
Boomerang's not terrible here.
It's a fine draw. I mean, it's really flexible for Jeff pushing through the damage, or if Todd finds some answer to the Shackles. I mean, this is a very solid draw.
Yeah, here are the two Tarmogoyfs coming in. They are both 5/6s. Todd's gonna block one with a Goyf, perhaps chump the other.
Yeah, I feel like this is Snapcaster in front of one, Goyf in front of the other, and
yeah,
that's the block you see.
And I believe he's waiting to use his own Lightning Bolt on Jeff's Tarmogoyf.
Right, he doesn't want to kill his own. It just frees up the Shackles to seal something else.
Placing 5 additional turns. Call it judge. If you have a time extension, it's not a judge at your table. End of round 3.
Now, what's awkward here is that Todd has 3 mana left over, so he can't really initiate anything right now because it plays right into the mana leak. He probably just has to untap and try again next turn to execute the same block.
And Jeff will pass. Todd, he was gonna bolt, now he thought about it, he knows it. Yeah, he'll try to finish off the Tarmogoyf, but yeah, knows the mana leak. I'm surprised to see that one happen.
Right, because this turn, Todd has enough mana to bolt, Snapcaster a bolt, and bolt again, and not play into the mana leak. So I was not a huge fan of firing off the bolt there.
There is a chance that Todd is just trying to kill Jeff this turn. He can get rid of the Snapcaster. He can swing for 7. He may just be trying to do a straight race with burn.
Perhaps, though, you had to feel like Jeff's got nothing going on. And now that Todd, I believe, is looking at an Ancient Grudge as the top card, he can settle back into a defensive stance here, try to wait this out. Once he grudges the Shackles, things get very easy for him.
There you go, another land for Hoogland. Yeah, that top card is the Ancient Grudge, as you suspect it is. It does a great job of playing around negate. 2 Tarmogoyfs swing in.
And this feels like the same block as we saw before. Yep. Get 1 chump block and make a move to get Jeff's Tarmogoyf off the table.
Now Jeff may actually be able to defend his Shackles from both halves of Ancient Grudge. He can boomerang the Shackles and negate part of the Ancient Grudge.
the thing is that this Lightning Bolt now is juicy enough to probably warrant one of those 2 cards being used. And if that's the case, then he gets an opportunity to grudge away the shackles, free up his Tarmogoyf, and start taking the game over here.
And you're absolutely right. Boomerang is going, looks like it's going to save Tarmogoyf.
Looks like it's going after Snapcaster Mage, in fact. And I suspect this will be going after the Electrolyze to finish up Todd's Tarmogoyf.
There you go. Yeah, Snapcaster recast. Sure, he's willing to trade Tarmogoyfs. And not killing their Snapcaster. He's going 1 to the Tarmogoyf and 1 to Todd.
Well, I think the plan here is that he would want the Snapcaster Mage still left in play to be able to steal. I guess the Tarmogoyf's already locked up, so.
Todd's gonna try to remand the Electrolyze, and Jeff will negate the remand.
Yeah, that feels like a spot where you get rid of the Snapcaster Mage.
So everything trades. Todd takes 1, goes to 6. Just all that's left is 1 Snapcaster on Todd's side, and then the Tarmogoyf that Todd stole, or that Jeff stole on his side. Snapcaster swings in for 2. Is Jeff going to trade? Sure, he'll clear the board. It's just Tarmogoyf left, and there's the Ancient Grudge that Todd peeled, set up from the beginning.
Yeah, Todd did a wonderful job of navigating the game to this point. I mean, it looked like he was out for a while.
I mean, what a setup there where he's just got Jeff to commit to trading everything, and he had this top-decked Ancient Grudge.
Yeah.
And this should be a really tough spot. The whole board clear. Todd has a Tarmogoyf, and he has a Lightning Bolt in hand. Both players playing off the top. Jeff down to 6. Tarmogoyf's to 5-6. Ancient Grudge in graveyard. Jeff's going to try to find something. Here comes Serum Visions. Finds Cryptic Command. That is a great start.
But he might have to use Cryptic Command defensively here, which is not how you want to be using it.
Not at all, but it keeps him alive, which is more than a lot of draws here. And Jeff down to 1. Todd will just pass. And it's going to be Cryptic Bounce Draw, but Todd bolts in response.
A great game from Todd. There was the only play that I was not that big of a fan of was the bolt there in a spot where, that's probably Jeff's last spot to use Mana Leak. But
even then, I think the game plays out in a way where, like, you get into that big counter war. Like, the idea that Todd can keep Mana Leak dead the entire game may just not have been possible. And if Todd recognized that, then sure, fire it off.
Exactly. It's not entirely clear to me that the Mana Leak wouldn't have been valuable at some other point. It felt like Todd was going through some pretty serious gymnastics the whole way to dead the Mana Leak, so suddenly turning it back on at a pretty juicy spot was a little bit weird to me, but on the balance, that was just a very, very well-played game from Todd.
And especially that maneuvering at the end, I felt like Todd he was 1 step ahead in that whole trading sequence and really got to execute the way that he needed it to.
I felt like Todd was mapping out several turns in advance there.
Yeah, well played.
Just very, very well played.
On to game 3. Remember, this one with some pretty big top eight implications on the line. The winner will make top 8. The loser may or may not be live. If you're Jeff, Jeff's almost certainly still live at X3. He was our last undefeated player. But if you're Todd Anderson, you need this match.
Yeah, I mean, both these players are in very good circumstances as far as tiebreakers are concerned. So a loss here is not the end of the world, but a draw is the same thing as a loss. You see 17 minutes left on the clock, a little bit more than that. So these games can go on for a very long time. The stacks get complicated. There's a lot of players just turtling up behind Tarmogoyf, so playing quickly is also a priority for both these players. You see they're presenting very quickly. They're aware a draw is very bad for both of them. It's effectively the same thing as a loss, and this game could go on for a pretty long time. All
right, game 3 is underway. Jeff's going to start out with a turn 1 fetch into Serum Visions. It will be a Shockland. He'll go to 7, or rather just a basic island. He'll go to 19 for Serum Visions. And you see in Todd's end, it looks like he does have some green in his opening. It's kind of what you want to look for is those Tarmogoyfs early on.
Another question that I would have in Todd's position is you've seen that game 2 went on for a really long time, and there wasn't even a hint of Blood Moon being in Jeff's deck for game 2. Do you just not play around it and be pretty aggressive, fetching for more and more blue duels to give yourself the best chance of winning a counter war?
Yeah, so the green card in Todd's hands is actually not a copy of Tarmogoyf. This is one of copy of Thrun out of the sideboard. We'll see when that one comes up.
And I think Thrun is pretty sweet in this matchup.
Yeah, Todd does both players just trading lands for the beginning turns. See Todd deciding whether or not he wants to ambush Viper that Snapcaster Mage, perhaps. Yeah, he's just gonna actually bolt upstairs. Jeff down to 16.
And I think this is an indication that if Jeff does nothing next turn, Todd's just gonna Snapcaster Bolt and try to get some pressure into play.
And Jeff down to 16. Hinterland Harbor for Todd. A bit of a dangerous spot. Todd does not have a 4th land here. All 3 were in his opener, however. And we go over to Jeff. Jeff with a lot of counter magic in hand. His hand's looking very blue. I don't know if he has a threat, but he certainly can contain Todd to a pretty good point.
And at risk of missing a 4th land drop is another very good reason to fire off the bolt to enable the Snapcaster Bolt sequence. Just get something going while your hand might get a little bit glutted.
See Vendilion Click and Serum Visions, Vapor Snag, Spell Pierce, Flash Freeze, all into Jeff's hand. He'll Serum Visions here. That's fine by Todd. Draw of 1. Scry 2 from Jeff. He has a Remand and a land. Looks like he wants both of those. He'll send them both to the top, and he'll pass back to Todd. And as predicted, here's Snapcaster Mage. Is Jeff going to let that one be allowed? You see his hand? Yeah, it's Boomerang, Snag, Vapor Snag, Negate, Pierce. Jeff will Spell Pierce the Lightning Bolt. Not going to take any more damage. Swinging for 2 from Jeff. Snapcaster Mage puts Jeff down to 13. No 4th land from Todd. Did have 3 lands in the keeper, but even so, he's got a lot of action for only being on 3.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his hand is flush right now. A couple copies of Remand. He just tries to initiate anything on the main phase. It's pretty dangerous. And I really like Todd getting his beat on here with the Snapcaster Mage. It's just bad enough to not be worth countering, but Jeff is thrilled, or Todd rather, is thrilled to get something in play while he's stalled on lands and threaten Jeff's life total a little bit.
Jeff may have a Tarmogoyf here to help stabilize, though. Before this turn, he had all instants, but yeah, and that was the scry off the top off the Serum Vision. So Tarmogoyf going to save Jeff a lot of life points. He's at 12 right now. Remember, there are multiple Lightning Bolts in Todd's hand. Todd's going to Remand the Goyf. Jeff paid for it using only green mana to leave up Boomerang. So force Jeff to negate the Remand as opposed to just simply recasting Goyf.
And Dispel just a turn too late here for Todd. Had he had Dispel in that counter war, that would have been a big shift. Remand would have been resolved. The Tarmogoyf wouldn't be in play. Dispel still not a bad draw here, given that Todd is choked on mana.
You see here 2 Lightning Bolts spent to take down Tarmogoyf. A lot of respect for that creature.
Those bolts aren't doing very much else. Jeff's life total is too high to be burned out, so.
Yeah, it's interesting, not almost able to be burned out, but just short. Also, the Tarmogoyf, I think, was doing a good number on the Thrun that Todd hadn't cast yet. So Todd will play Vendilion Click now. Jeff will play Vendilion Click rather. Look at Todd's hand. It is Remand, Cryptic Command, Dispel, and Thrun the last troll.
A pretty rough hand here because there's 2 very powerful cards in the Thrun and the Cryptic Command, but giving Todd another look at land number 4 plus keeping one of the 4 mana spells is also not great.
Yeah, and got to be some disappointment from Todd here, having the Thrun and those 3 lands in his opener to having them get Vendilion clicked so many turns later is got to be a letdown.
This is true, but having access to land number 4 with Cryptic Command in hand is not bad either.
Yep, swing from Snapcaster trades off the creatures, and Todd. Now, of course, when it rains, it pours land number 4 and 5 coming off the Vendilion Click and the draw step. And here looks to be Flame Slash off from Todd. He'll shock for another land here and just pass back to Jeff. 18 and 10 are life totals. Both players sitting on fistful of instants. And they'll be trading, one of them looking for a threat. Electrolyze from Jeff, that might be happening on end step. Todd will pass. Jeff not going to fire off Electrolyze just yet. They're still trading lands.
Interesting, I thought Jeff might just cycle right there, but there's a lot of X1s in Todd's deck, so.
Yep, Serum Visions for Todd. That's a card that actually can be cast, and he'll go ahead and do so. Jeff's going to let that one resolve. Todd draws into another Serum Visions, scry of 2, both on top. What a show of power by Todd. He's going to Serum Visions a second time here.
Yeah, and if he left on top, that means he's got a land because he wants to get land number 4, so he still has access to Cryptic Command.
Yeah, does hit the land as Breeding Pools. It's land 6. Next turn, he'll be able to, probably the next card down is a threat of some sort.
I believe it was Tarmogoyf that got left.
And that's got to be that's what both players, I think, would think are looking for right here. Go over to Jeff's turn. He's going to cast Snapcaster Mage, perhaps going for a Serum Visions. That is Jeff feeling pressure to dig for more value. Todd's going to take a chance to try to get some card advantage here, though. Remand casted on the flashback Serum Visions, and Jeff's just going to let that one happen. Todd draws the card.
Yep. Good exchange there for Todd. Remand very powerful against Snapcaster Mage. The spell is just exiled forever, so good spot.
Just a dismiss, counterspell draw card. And as you mentioned, the draw for the turn was Tarmogoyf for Todd Anderson. Jeff leaving up 4 mana. Todd doesn't even want to play into it just yet. Wants to be better equipped for the counter war that could happen. Swing for 2 from Jeff puts Todd down to 16, and Vendilion Click looks like it'll be flashed into play on end step on Todd's side. he's looked, and if it resolves, we'll see what he picks. Him or Jeff. Information's pretty important, and cycling his own cards seems to be important too. And it's going to be, with that trigger on the stack, it's going to be Electrolyze, 1 and 1 from Jeff. Todd not going to let that one happen. It's going to be Negate from Todd on the Electrolyze. Does Jeff keep fighting? 1 blue up from Todd. He's representing Dispel. We know he actually does have it. Jeff has to wonder.
And because all the spells in this matchup are instants, or almost all of them, Negate's actually the less valuable of the two.
And Jeff going for a big value play. He's going to try to Vapor Snag his own Snapcaster Mage here. Recasting Snapcaster. And that's going to give Spell Pierce flashback. He'll Spell Pierce, and now comes in the Dispel. The counter war is finished. The Negate is dispelled. The Electrolyze does not work here. We go back. Now Vendilion Click resolves. It's going to look at Jeff's hand. We see Boomerang, Flash Freeze, Cryptic Command, Tarmogoyf. And it's got a choice between Cryptic and Tarmogoyf. Cryptic Command will be the card sent away by Todd.
Just another great use of mana there by Todd. Another counter war 1.
This whole fight was done on Jeff's end step, so Todd will get to be the first one to untap. And Jeff tapped out. We will see what damage Todd can do. He does have a Tarmogoyf of his own. And we see some red spells too, Flame Slash and Lightning Bolt. And he's going to get aggressive toward Jeff's life totals. Flame Slash takes down the Snapcaster Mage. Vendilion Click swings in. Jeff drops down to 6. Here's Tarmogoyf, and Todd will pass yet again.
And with Bolt in hand, there's a lot of pressure on Jeff to answer everything.
Todd's hand, Cryptic Command, Lightning Bolt, Ancient Grudge. The Cryptic Command not castable just right now. Jeff with a lot of mana, but he has, you said before it, he has to answer everything now. And it's going to be a try for Blood Moon from Jeff. And this is huge. It is all of Todd's cards right now. He does not have his basic island. He does not have his basic forest. That's going to resolve. Jeff plays Tarmogoyf, and he's going to Boomerang the Vendilion Click. That's just as good as a kill spell.
Yep. I mean, it still frees up Todd's Bolt to trade off with the Goyf here.
Swing.
Legacy players, your parents.
Jeff can't afford to play around Lightning Bolt. He'll block Goyf with Goyf, and that'll get bolted. The only card Todd can continue to play in his hand is his copy of Ancient Grudge. Can he get across 6 more damage before Jeff finds a way to deal with it? Jeff's right off for the turn is just an island. He passes. We're back over to Todd Anderson. A swing for Goyf puts Jeff down to 2. He has 1 more draw to phase. To fade here. We'll see. It's a Lightning Bolt from Jeff, and it's not going to be it. Todd Anderson in 3 takes down the match.
Just a great match. I mean, those, you can see when both players are sitting there and you're sort of watching the match from the side, it just looks like a lot of draw go. But once you have the scope of both players' hands, you see how much they're trying to set up